You know, crankbait fishing, there's so many different types of crankbaits as far as profiles and wobbles. And the flat-sided crankbait is probably one category of crankbaits that a lot of people don't fish and don't know a lot about. And I was going to give you a few tips today that might share with you to know when and how to set up your equipment to fish them the best. The flat sides, in my opinion, they are at their best during the pre-spawn when the water temperatures are fairly cold, but they're starting to warm up. And during the pre-spawn, the time of the year when that water temperature starts to reach 50 degrees, particularly when you have areas that have a little bit of stain to the water, that's the #1 time of year where the biggest fish are going to be super shallow. Once that water temperature, like here in the Ozarks particularly, once that water temperature starts to hit 50 degrees, those 4-pound class fish, those 4 to 6, 7-pound fish, are the toughest size fish to catch. Those fish are really the most susceptible to being caught in shallow water that time of year. They get up right on the bank, some of the steeper banks, sometimes in like 2-3 foot of water, and the flat-sided crankbaits like the Megabass Sonic Side are some of the best ways to target them. And what I like to do is I get real tight in on the bank. I'll try to find these areas, flatter gravelly type areas like this, water visibility that's got a little bit of stain to it, and you're just making fairly short casts into the real shallow water, burning that bait down a little bit, stopping and starting it, pausing it. Sometimes I'll pull it, but depending upon the visibility of the water, that's where you're going to dictate where your strike zone is. Say for example, if you're fishing like 12 inches of visibility, that strike zone is going to be right on the bank, so you need to be really focused in on that zone. The Sonic Side's got a super slow float. It's almost suspends as a crankbait, so you can really keep it in that strike zone a lot longer than you could any other type of crankbait like that. Now, other scenarios that can work this, there's a lot of different possible variations from that. You can catch a lot of fish just speed cranking it next to cover, speed cranking it next to dock ends, around stumps, around riprap. The profile, flat side like this, is the key that sometimes triggers a strike when the more traditional profiles won't. Now, there's 2 different color patterns I like here. There's a lot of different color variations this bait comes in, but you're basically focused in on a shad pattern or some type of a crawfish pattern based upon the time of the year. In the early spring, the early pre-spawn, I prefer the crawfish patterns more, particularly based upon water clarity. If you're fishing water clarity in that 1 to 3 foot zone, any type of a crawfish pattern. The rest of the time of the year, you're going to find out these shad patterns are a lot more effective. The only exception would be in that early bite when that water temperature is sometimes still in like mid to upper 40s, sometimes the shad pattern works really effective. I'm usually using fairly light line on this bait, 8 to 10 pound test line because it's fairly light. With 8 to 10 pound test line and a long cast on this bait, I can get it down into that 6 foot zone if I need to. And this is really critical sometimes when I'm parallel on the bank, because based upon the angle of the bank, it gives me that option of holding my rod tip high, staying shallow right on the bank, or I can parallel it off in that little bit deeper 6 foot water. So anyway, give it a try this spring. Megabass Sonic Side crankbait. It's going to be one of your best lures to catch a really big bass during the early pre-spawn.